So another maintenance item I need to do on my wife's car is replacing the coolant basically. So the first step I like to do always is check the amount of coolant that it should be there, because that will give me an indication after I drain the old coolant on how much is remaining inside the engine circuit. Okay, so always that's the first step. All right, I'll try to show you at night, that may be easier, where the drain petcock is. Fortunately, all Toyotas have this. So here you have the radiator, and if you see below here, I have the hose already connected, that you will see there a petcock for draining the coolant, and you will see it has like a plastic white bolt that you need to unscrew, and that will make the coolant start to flow. And then the bottom, my setup, a container and a hose. Okay, so I'm going to start draining it. You don't need to rush it. It's there. It's just a little strain of coolant, and if you unplug here for giving it some air, you will see the coolant that will start draining. Going to leave it like this, and here you will see the coolant that will start to flow. All right, so once it's done, basically you just adjust the draining petcock, and now what I like to do is I like to measure basically how much coolant we took away with this very simple method, without doing anything special other than opening the draining petcock. If you remember what I shown on the user manual, it said that approximately 6 quarts of coolant is the capacity, 5.7 liters. So I'm going to measure this, and theoretically this 5 liters container shouldn't be enough for that coolant. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, now after I measure this, I'm going to fill with distilled water, and I'm going to use the car a couple of days, and then I'm going to repeat the process 2 or 3 days. And as you might see, less than 4 liters, like almost 3.5 quarts were obtained in this way. That means that you have almost 30% of the coolant still on the circuit. Now we will carefully complete this. Okay, basically you will complete it until you have this to the top, okay, with distilled water. I'm going to use something so that I don't make a mistake. All right, what you want to do is you want to do this slowly, so that you don't introduce too much air into the circuit, although it's impossible not to get some air there, and you're going to do it until it overfills. All right, as you may see, the radiator is full. There's distilled water on the funnel I'm using. Okay, it's spilling a little bit, but there's nothing there. There's not the alternator or anything like that in its way. So what we are going to do now is we're going to start the car, and we will see how the air comes out and the engine ends up sucking all this water. Once that disappears, and with the engine still running, we will complete it to the top of the radiator. And it keeps expelling air bubbles and sucking the still water. And as part of the draining of the oil cooler, you can turn on the heater at max temperature, so that it opens the thermostat and keeps sucking air, I'm basically sending all coolant within the heater core, sending it back to the circuit so that we start cleaning absolutely everything. And there you see, water only, and it's sucking now that the heater is on, it's sucking the water, so I'm going to complete it to the top. Might be a bit messy because I'm filming with one hand and putting the water with the other one. Although it is what it is. That's it for today. So now I'm going to basically fill it to the top. I'm going to put the cap on, and then tomorrow I will give a 40 minutes drive with heater fully on, and then repeat the process. And I'll do that during 2 following days. You don't even need to lift the car for this, so it's pretty easy to do it. Of course, you need to make sure there are no freezing temperatures, because since it's going to be running only on water, the still water can freeze and that can crack the engine. Okay, so you need to be sure that won't be the case. All right, after several days of doing this with the hose, and I don't know if you will see there the hose with the draining petcock. Now this is done. I'm going to completely remove it, and if I need to make some mess, it's just the still water. It's completely empty. I'm taking a look to the drain petcock, but it's not even, it's just dripping a couple of waters. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to empty the overfill container, and then I will complete it with Corolla Coolant. I'm going to use this syringe to empty that container. You can always remove the container and basically make a thoughtful cleaning of the container, but if your car if you do the change of coolant in frequent intervals, that won't be needed. Time to refill it with Toyota super long-lasting coolant. I rather get like the one that is pure, because in that way, the red one, the old one, because in that way you can measure how much water you still have in the circuit, and you can basically play with that and put some pure coolant to compensate that. In this case, I know for sure whatever it's going to be in the engine won't be 50-50. I'm adding 50-50, but there's some water inside the engine for sure. The second liter is coming in. Try to put this slow, you don't want to introduce too much air into the circuit. And 3 and almost a fourth liter, 3.5 liters was what it took after draining in this way 2 or 3 times with the still water. So that's what I hate about the pink fluid, that I know that only 2/3 are premixed coolant, and there's 1/3 that it's plain water. So actually I'm going to be running the car in 35 to 40% coolant and 55 to 60%, 65 to 60% the still water. Okay, so I'm not super worried, because here the coldest it gets is around 0 Celsius or 30 Fahrenheit. So that's something that with 30 or 40% of coolant, the engine will be okay. But I will have to check the level and top it off, because if it has more water, it will of course evaporate a little bit. Okay, so well, that's what I prefer, the concentrated red type over the pink one. But here in Argentina, you can only get the pink one.